Yes, now you can? Yes. Good evening. I apologize for our delay in getting started. I'm calling to order regular session number 12 of the Dover School Board. Roll call, please.
Amanda Russell.
Here.
Keith Holt.
Here.
Kathy Morrison's here. Zach Kaler.
Here.
Matt Lahr.
Here.
Carolyn Meebert.
Here.
And Andrew Wallace.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Kaler, would you please lead us in the pledge? Did we bring a...
One in here.
Pick a corner.
We're gonna look this way.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we will open up Citizens Forum. Anyone who would like to speak this evening is welcome to do so. Please give your name and address for the record. Please remember we cannot allow reference to specific personnel or students, and that the meeting is being recorded. Because the meeting is being broadcast, use of profanity of any type is not permitted. You have 5 minutes to speak, and I will keep track of the time. If you're getting close, I will give you a 1-minute warning. Citizens Forum is now open.
Hello and thank you. My name is Paula Ciotti. I have a senior here at Dover High. Given the nature of this forum, I'm not really comfortable giving my address.
Our policy says all names and addresses, just like the city council meetings. We've never done that in the past to allow someone to not give their address.
Have you had cameras from all across the...
We have had
Okay.
cameras previously at meetings.
Okay. County Farm Karst Road in Dover?
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to start with, how do you teach about sensitivity and tolerance unless you understand the history behind the lack of sensitivity and tolerance? Can we teach about history without addressing the atrocities of our forefathers and without evoking an emotional response as we learn about the mistakes of the past? How do we teach about not repeating those mistakes if we ourselves are not offended by them or appalled by them? How do we teach about those mistakes if we are not historically accurate? We all know that our children can be impulsive and that we all don't think about the long-term ramifications of our actions. But we cannot allow the impulsivity of one student to ruin a 25-year career of a man who loves his family, who loves his students, and who's devoted to the Dover community. It is crucial that we have sensitivity training and that we continue to teach our youth about tolerance, to respect one another, and to embrace diversity. Yet there's no sensitivity training in all of our society to say that it is not okay to take out your phone anytime you want and videotape without consent. I stand before you in support of John Carver, and as you can see, I'm one of many. We are all here to share stories of John that we know. We're here to tell you about our experiences.
Could you please not reference to specifics? Thank you.
We are all here to speak about our experiences that span over decades. Some of us will speak to his character, some of us to him as a coach, and some as an educator. But we all have a common theme. We love, admire, and we respect him. We're deeply troubled by the actions taken by the school. We're deeply troubled by the lack of urgency to stop the spread of misinformation, to stop the spread of defamation to his character, and to allow the Dover community to be misrepresented. I'm going to share 2 quick stories. One is very personal, so I'm going to leave that till the end. But I want to speak to the tolerance of this teacher. So several years ago, and I have to tell you, I don't know what year it was, but like every year, the students elect a class couple. In this particular year, they elected a lesbian couple. It was their choice. It was the couple that they loved and adored. Well, apparently, the Jones Brother Baptist Church did not approve of this decision, and so it was well known that they were going to protest. At the time, I believe that the superintendent was Superintendent LaSalva. So he called together the teachers, and he said, here's the issue. What's going to happen is that the protesters are coming out tomorrow. We can't prevent this because they have every right to protest on a public street. And he said, so as you know, the senior lot is private property and they cannot publicly protest there. The teacher lot is private property and they can't protest there. But as you all know, Alumni Drive runs right up the middle, and therefore they're allowed to protest there and nobody could stop them. So this teacher was the only one who stood up, and he said, if that is the case, then we need to protect our students, and we need to allow them to park in the teacher's lot. Nobody else felt real comfortable with that because obviously everybody was a little bit nervous. So the superintendent said, fine, Mr. Teacher. If that's the case, then you can go out there and direct traffic. So this teacher got up, arrived at school at 6:30 in the morning, and he stood alone on Alumni Drive to direct the senior students to park in the teacher's lot so that they could feel safe and protected and enter the school without having to go through the protesters. This is a man who has coached a baseball team for 22 years. 18 of 22 years, they've received the Sportsmanship Award for Division I. He coached basketball for 2 years. Of those 2 years, both years, they received the Sportsmanship Award through his leadership. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat. I urge you to bring back John Carver.
Again, I'd just like to remind everyone that we're not making specific reference to names of individuals. Thank you.
Linda Austin, Pearson Drive. I'm going to start out addressing the students, and this is a bit of a difficult read. Back in July, my graduating class was celebrating its 35th anniversary. I graduated from National High School. During the summer, we lost 3 of our fellow classmates. It happens. One of our classmates posted the following on Facebook. Please note the date, July 3rd, and his name is Scott Pierpont, and I will share that name because, frankly, he deserves to have recognition. Recently intended to be their class reunion, but stage 3 pancreatic cancer has spread, and they have cut off my time limit. Broad Street, Elm Street, and Nashua High School, rock on class of 1983. If I insulted or bothered you in school, I am sorry. If I ever helped or supported you, I was scared, an insecure child, but a work in progress. I think that still resonates for all kids, even to this day. This was posted on July 3rd. On July 19th, we lost Scott. He felt it was important to make amends, and I can tell you he was not one of these students that needed to make amends, but he felt it was important. I ask all the students here tonight, and any student, please be kind to each other, gentle to each other. We all deal with crap, and frankly, what you do today, you may regret later. Now, I'm not singling out the kids that are involved in the situation, and frankly, I feel that they were not properly protected in this case. As parents, as teachers, we owe it to these kids to educate them properly. That doesn't just mean learning about history, mathematics, English, grammar, and whatnot. We need to prepare them for the workforce. I've been in the business industry for 30 years, and I can assure you, if this incident would have happened in the company I used to work for, it would not have been tolerated. I don't care if this individual is a saint, it would not have been tolerated. There are ways to address the nasty stuff in our history. It happened. We have to acknowledge it. The point of history is not just to learn facts, dates, names. It's to learn the mistakes of the past so that we don't repeat them. Understand how it damaged us as a society and how it's still damaging us today. And how do we fix this? Now, I want to be clear too. My kids are chatterbugs. They throw you guys under the bus constantly. And I've been through the halls recently, and I've noticed a few things. The N-word gets thrown around from one student to the next. And I don't mean white students calling out to African-American students. This is an African-American student calling another African-American student their N. Now, I know some African-Americans may feel that that's okay, but go back and think about the historical context of that word. When you get out in the workforce, you may think another African-American is your N, but they're going to be really offended. So please, rise above it. You're better than that. Your brothers and sisters, your family. Also, another word that crosses me beyond imagination. It's in reference to the gay community. The F word. And I'm not just saying the F-bomb. It is too rampant in this school, and it needs to stop. Teachers need to step it up, and I'm not picking on you guys. You're grossly underpaid, you're overworked, definitely. These are teachable moments. Part of our jobs as adults is to get these guys ready for the workforce. They can't do that. They need help in learning what's appropriate. This isn't some political agenda. This is preparing our kids for the future. Corporate America does not accept this. We need to do better. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. A little bit about myself. I've been a Dover resident since
I'm sorry, can you give us your name and address, please?
Major Ross, Air Force retired, and former substitute teacher here in this school system, and a retired teacher from Spalding in Rochester, having taught aerospace science for 14 and a half years. We came here in '81, and we bought in '84 in the industrial park area. And I'm here to tell you that I've seen a lot of...
Can we get your address? I'm sorry, for the record.
82 Littleworth Road, and I keep my powder dry and my gun handy. You can laugh now, but that might become a reality in your lifetime. At any rate, when I was subbing here, there were very few minority students in this school system. I can look around the room and see that has changed tremendously. But we have to reflect in our educational system the mores of the community. We have a fantastic police force. I've known and worked with the chiefs for quite a while. I'm also a person who was a human rights judge for the state of New Hampshire. So I didn't fall off the wagon yesterday. I'm proud to be in Dover. We all make mistakes. All of my kids are grown, double degrees in mathematics and computer science. But I'm here to tell you we have to address the racial and ethnicity history because they're not going to live in New Hampshire all their lives. They're going to go outside of New Hampshire and they're going to, hey lady, I haven't seen you in a long time. How's everything? Yeah. At any rate, I think you're doing the right thing. Got to work together, and we can make this state even a better place. The new president of the NAACP, which I'm president emeritus for the Seacoast area after 17 years, It was appointed by our current governor to head up a new civil rights organization. His name is Rogers Johnson, who's replaced me. And they're doing good work around the state. And how that came into being, ladies and gentlemen, there was a kid about 8 years old that was pushed off a table with a noose around his neck. And that brought a lot of people to realize there is a problem here. We've got to deal with it. And I'm here to tell you, as substituting from second grade, they're little angels up until about fourth grade. They love you, there's no problem with it. And then there's a transition that goes between elementary, middle school, and high school. And high school got out of the way, so and so, you know what I'm saying. And it's awful. And you better learn, because if you want to get a good job somewhere, you have to get some good manners. But our problems here, we can fix them. We all make mistakes, and I haven't met anyone yet who have not made a mistake. Is there one in this room? I don't see any. Bye.
Good evening, Julianne Guyette, Brookline Avenue in Dover. I'm here to address a mistake that my son made back in 2015. At some time during the day, this was written on the bathroom wall. He didn't use the N word, though. A different word was used, at which time the school was evacuated. My son was charged with a felony for false alarm, and a hate crime is now on his permanent record. So, a mistake. I believe this was a result of his bullying that he received here. My son suffers from autism, Asperger's specifically, so this was a direct result of the bullying that occurs here. A lot of hate speak occurs here. So I just want to point out that if this is not addressed as a hate crime, it seems like it's quite a double standard to me personally as a mother, and in respect of what my son's been through as a result of this mistake that he made back in 2015. Thank you.
Not at this time.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Scott Lucius. I reside on Apache Street in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm a lifelong resident of this wonderful community, and thank you for your time. And I appreciate the service that you all provide. When it comes to talking about an educator that we're here for tonight, I think if I'm seated where you are, I would want to hear from people that have true perspective in regards to who this person is. I think I can offer that to you, and I think it's a rather unique perspective. My wife and I have 3 adult children, all of whom went through the Dover school system. They graduated from Dover High School, graduated from college, all gainfully employed, great human beings. My 2 daughters spent multiple years in this educator's classroom. If they were in the area and were able to be here, they would talk glowingly of him, of what they learned, and not only what they learned, how they learned it. He made it seem less like work. He piqued their interest. He made them better students. My son was not in his classroom. My son happened to be in his baseball program for 4 years, was the captain his senior year. He was exposed to him as well. So the 3 most important things in my life and my wife's life were part of this educator's life for several years. If at any point in time we thought that he was of questionable character or was not doing the right thing, that would not have been the case, most certainly. I think, perspective is a great thing, and I think that's what you need. I think a lot of people are going to offer you opinions tonight from the outside looking in. I think it's a different situation when you're offered information from people that know this individual personally. The last component of the perspective that I have that I'll offer to you is personal. For the past 16 years, I've been on the coaching staff of the Dover High Baseball program, a program that this educator has run for over 20 years. It's already been said that during that time span, he's been bestowed several sportsmanship awards, which are given by the NHIAA. Certainly, if he was of questionable character or means, that would not have happened. That most certainly would not have happened. I mean, talk about perspective. I have been in every nook and cranny of this educator's life for the past approximate 20 years. And you know what I found? I found a good man, a solid man, a great community person, and the most important thing in his life outside of his family has always been his students and his student athletes. That's always the way it has been, and anybody that knows him knows that. So I would say this to you in closing. I would hope that, you know, as a lifelong member of this community, that we don't go looking for a villain here. There is no villain to look for, right? I would hope that we not rip this community apart when there's no need to do so. I hope that it brings us together. I hope that you do the right thing using the perspective that's provided to you, and that you put this educator back in the classroom sooner than later. Thank you.
Good evening.
You can adjust that.
Maybe. Okay. It's better? Good evening. My name is Lisa. I live on Willard Road in Dover. And I wanted to second everything that Coach Lou just said about this teacher. Monday night, I was at dinner with a friend, and another friend sent me a text with a link with an article talking about a teacher from Dover High School who was on administrative leave for a racist song that was sung in the classroom. And my friend was asking if I knew anything about this. And I didn't. It was the first I had heard of it. The teacher hadn't been identified at the time. I showed the article, the link to the article, to my friend at dinner, and she said, "Oh my God, I hope this isn't this teacher." And my immediate reaction to that was absolutely not. He would never allow racism in his classroom. And I know that because he truly would never allow racism in his classroom. So we all know the stories around the situation and the lesson plan. And this was and is a lesson and a teachable moment about a period in time where racism was prominent. And this was an opportunity to teach about how wrong that was and how horrible that was. And that's exactly what this teacher was doing. He was not condoning it. He was teaching with sensitivity, and he was teaching the facts of the part of our history that was so wrong, and that's what he was talking about. And so this lesson plan has been taught at Dover High School for several years by this teacher, under this administration, with sensitivity, without incident, and as an opportunity to teach our students. It tells me that the current administration was aware of this lesson plan and understands the intention of this lesson plan. And that was to make a factual reference to a period in our time and to engage students in a conversation around this topic. So there was actually a quote in one of the local newspapers saying, quote, "This whole situation has a racial connotation." And so in my opinion, this statement is unfair. There's no doubt that the topic has racial connotations. And to be clear about that, the lesson plan was not racially insensitive, and the teacher was not being racially insensitive. It was an American history class teaching about American history, and American history is riddled with racial connotations. And in order to educate our students around this subject, it needs to be taught in a way where students can feel engaged in the conversation. And I know for a fact that this teacher has spent countless hours creating thoughtful lesson plans that are appropriate and creative and give students an opportunity to learn and talk. And truly, if the administration isn't comfortable with students engaging in thoughtful conversations and creative plans, then we can't teach. So what the administration would need to do is before any subject could be taught for one more day is review every document, every book, every article, every poem, every movie, every curriculum across subjects, across the school district, and to remove every racial connotation. And beyond that, every issue around any protected class and any topic that could even be perceived as insensitive, and pull all of that back and review it and give it a full assessment before anybody could teach again, and to provide that information about precisely how it could be taught. And so I know that that sounds extreme, and you probably think that that sounds outrageous, and of course it does, because of course students will continue to learn and teachers will continue to teach about sensitive subjects. But my point about this situation is that this situation is outrageous. This is a skilled and experienced teacher who was put on leave for a lesson plan that's been taught for several years under this current administration, and a lesson plan that's not racially insensitive. There's no question that conversations around racism should be treated with great sensitivity and great care, and that was exactly the intention of this lesson. So what is wrong and unacceptable is that the administration is not standing by their employee, and they're not protecting his privacy, and they're not restoring him to his position, and they should do exactly that. So I've known this teacher for 25 years, and I have a unique perspective of him because I've raised 2 remarkable children with him, and we remain friends to this day. And truth be told, in 25 years, I've never known him to be racially insensitive, and I've never known him to condone racism. And the opposite of that, as a matter of fact, he's been committed to our students and to education, and he has been a role model. And I have heard students countless times say that he is their favorite teacher. I heard that even tonight. He's my favorite teacher. He was my favorite teacher. I want to play for this person. And they have endless stories of what he has taught them and the lessons and the positive impact that he's had on their lives. And so he's created an environment where people do feel safe and people do feel valued and people can have conversations that are engaged. And to me, all of that demonstrates great sensitivity by this teacher. And I hope that you do restore him to his position as soon as possible, sooner rather than later. Thank you.
And don't mind me, I'm under the weather, but I'm a little nervous.
We need your
Chantel Isanda, New York Street. First, I want to say I'm utterly disgusted by this entire situation. And although many people have said they find it surprising, I don't. As many say this is not the Dover they know, I find that to be the opposite. I've seen many instances of racism here. Excuse me. Sorry, it's an upsetting situation. The reaction of many in the community alone is enough to prove this statement. Just because many white people in this community feel that this is being taken too far, is not offensive, was not meant to be malicious or racist, does not make it so. It is racist, period. Whether intentional or not, malicious or not, is entirely besides the point, and it's not up to the white community to explain to the people of color or their white allies. By doing this, you are saying that their judgment and feelings do not matter, and your white opinions are far more important. The song these young men created is abhorrent and inexcusable. I will refer to them as men, not children, as like I have seen, because if they were black, they would not get the privilege of being referred to as young children, as these 2 students continue to be referred to as. I find it impossible to believe that 16 or 17-year-old young men thought that singing "Let's kill all the blacks," in jest was somehow completely okay and would not be taken wrong by anyone. They are smarter than you are giving them credit for, although what they did was very stupid. On another note, it is a positive that the high school administration has been, willing to meet with community groups to talk about resolutions and moving forward. However, the pacifist attitude I have seen so far does not address the anger some are feeling, like myself. It is not people of color's jobs to make the administration comfortable when dealing with something that should make everyone uncomfortable. The administration, which is entirely white, should have adapted to the changing demographic of the community and put proactive measures in place a long time ago. If that means teaching the teachers and students how not to be accidental or intentional racists, then so be it. But they did not, and this lack of action is one reason why we are now here dealing with this situation. A huge miss so far has been the school's initial reaction. By allowing the teacher to come to school last Monday to teach, even though the administration had fully known what happened the entire weekend, probably was on the phone, having meetings, etc., is ridiculous. The action should have been swift, and he should not have been allowed to come to school that day while the investigation continued, let alone keep his job. By allowing him to come to school, you sent a message that the administration puts its own self-interest above the students as well as the community as a whole. Whether you feel he is racist or not, he is incredibly ignorant at the very least and does not deserve to have the power to mold young minds. To be clear, there is many resolutions to this situation. There needs to be many, but one of them is not him keeping his job. That's it.
My name's Bob Fredette, and I live on Back Road in Dover. I've had 3 sons that went through the school systems in Dover. And first of all, I saw that video. It was disgusting. Literally just disgusting. I apologize to the kids who had to go through that, but unfortunately, that's how it is now in this day and age. I would like to talk about the teacher. I'm a volunteer baseball coach, and so I spent a lot of time with that individual. He is not a racist. I'm going to say it again. He is not a racist. I have no idea if any of you have met this gentleman. Spend some time with him. Did he make a mistake? Yes, he did. He regrets it more than you could ever imagine. If you take him out of his job as a teacher, you are doing a disservice to this community. How do we learn about things? We correct the mistakes that we make. He did not do this intentionally. If you have a student in your classroom and they do something wrong, do you give them a chance to correct it? Do you help them? Or do you just kick them out of the classroom and send them home? If you relieve him of his duties, you are doing a terrible thing to the city of Dover. He is a great coach. He has a great relationship with his students and the athletes. Unless you've gone through good times and bad times with an individual, you have no idea how they really are. The man is a great person. I'm going to say it again. He made a mistake. Help him correct it. Don't throw him out of the school system. The kids will not benefit by that. Now, this is probably going to sound a little rough. There are some people in here that completely disagree with me. If you do your jobs and you do it right, have some courage, do the right thing for the city of Dover, for the high school, the students, and you let the man teach.
My name is Cy Carver. I live on Willard Road in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm currently a senior at the University of New Hampshire, but I was born and raised in town, and I am an alumni of Dover High School, where I was the captain of the soccer and baseball teams, and I consider myself now a proud member of the community. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Carver family. In my junior year of high school, I ran into some issues when I left the library for class and forgot to log out of my email account on one of the school computers. A fellow student used this opportunity to send out a troubling email to the entire baseball program, including all of the parents of each player. In no uncertain terms, and through using some choice words, the author of this email enlightened us into their opinion of the school. This person attacked the administration, the athletic department, and told everyone else that they can go, well, I'll leave that to your imagination. After hearing about this, my initial reaction was, oh my God, I hope my dad is nowhere near a computer right now. My second thought was, how can I apologize to everyone? My close friends forgave me instantly, most of them laughing it off because of just how ridiculous and uncomfortable the message was. Next, I had to apologize to the parents of my teammates, which made me pretty nervous until I began talking with them. I specifically remember the first parent that I apologized to. I couldn't say I was sorry enough, and I wanted them to know how bad I felt about the situation. And what this person said to me has stayed with me ever since. This person said, "Sai, you're good. Don't worry about it." The second that I read that email, I thought, no way John Carver's son could have wrote that. There's been many times leading up to this where I was thankful to have John Carver in my life, but in the moment, I had never been more appreciative of the position that my father had put me in. The parents and players understood that my dad does not support that kind of ignorance. He does not condone that use of that language, and they understand that the values he preaches to his players and to his students would not be reflected in such a harmful message. As a result, I was almost instantly relieved of any punishment or backlash I may have received simply by being a reflection of my father. I remember in the weeks leading up to my first days of high school, my dad and I having conversations about how I was now at an age where kids might start to experiment with drugs and alcohol, and how it was vital for me to stay away from these things. It's a pretty typical conversation that most parents have with their children at that age, and it was one that we had had many times before. But the thing that stuck out to me was a new topic. He talked about how in high school, I might find out that there are people that don't like my dad, and that when I come in contact with these people, I'm not to go to my dad's defense. I just nodded to show that I understood, although in my mind I couldn't help but disagree. I started brainstorming all of these potential arguments that I may have, and I came up with some witty comebacks for them. Fortunately, I never had to use them. I never had to come to my father's defense because the best members of the Dover community served as the defense for me. Many of the best students to come out of Dover High School and many of the current residents of Dover are the products of the amazing work that my father has put into the classroom and on the baseball field. This list includes numerous valedictorians, class presidents, and even current employees of the school district, all of which were able to have my dad in class. For those of you that were unable to have my dad as a coach or as a teacher, you may recognize him as the voice behind the microphone at the home football and basketball games. You may recognize him as the man that runs the pep rallies to conclude Spirit Week, the man that announces students' names at graduation, or maybe you simply recognize him as the kid that grew up in Dover, moved to Vermont to attend Linden State for a couple years, only to come back to start his career in the town that he loves. My point being here that no matter where you work, no matter where you come from, and no matter how long you've lived in Dover, if you spend even a week as a member of the community, you can see the positive impact that my dad has on everyone around him. I've taken the time to speak on behalf of my family, but I know that I speak for the entire town when I say that my dad is not in the wrong in here. He was not the one that sang or wrote the song in question, and at no point did he stand up and support any racially insensitive group. The fact that the school has allowed the media to portray the situation as anything other than what I have described is flat out embarrassing. It's embarrassing that my dad has taken all the blame for the words of others, taken the blame for an assignment that the administration has deemed worthy for the classroom when they approved his curriculum. It is embarrassing that he has had to miss even a single minute in the classroom. And it's embarrassing that the character of this man who has dedicated his life to education and to this town was ever in question. I personally believe that the administration has now set the precedent that a student in high school may be more qualified and has better educational techniques than a teacher of more than 2 decades. I believe that they are saying, not through words, but through actions, that the students of my dad's class are better suited to handle difficult subjects that may present themselves throughout the curriculum, and are more prepared than someone that has a lifetime of coaching and teaching experiences. They are saying that by 11th grade, these students already possess the knowledge and are smart enough to handle uncomfortable situations like mature adults, while at the same time are unwilling to give the students a diploma for another year and a half until they are competent and mature enough to graduate. I understand that there's a time to protect your students, and I believe that the administration has actually done a great job of showing support for every student in and out of the classroom. But as an employer, it is time to support your employee. It is time to shield any discouraging remarks that may be thrown my father's way, and it is time to let the community know, to let Foster's Daily Democrat know, the Boston Globe, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Toronto Star, or the London Times, or anyone else that has covered and printed my father's name in the paper, to know that you recognize that this was not the intention of the assignment and that you knew that when you approved it. In any amount of time, it is impossible for me to express the impact that my dad has on my life, let alone try to cram it all into a few short minutes up here. And I think that if you were to ask anyone in this crowd, they would say the same thing. I know my dad's watching, and I want him to know that I'm proud of him and that I love him, and that we all love him and support him. To the rest of you that still don't believe that my dad was at fault here, or to those of you that still believe that my dad is at fault here, I want you to know that we stand behind my dad as a teacher, we stand behind my dad as a coach, and we stand behind John Carver, the family man, and as our friend. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Brian Cartier, Dover resident. I live on Abbey Sawyer Memorial Highway. I don't know the teacher in question, and it's not my intention to damn him. I'm sure that in his time in this town, he's done some great things, and I'm sure that he is a good man. Every single day, all of us make decisions that could change our lives or change our careers. As educators, every single day, you're faced with decisions and opportunities to really teach. Now, when I initially saw the video, I was offended, and I wanted to blame the students, and I think a lot of people did. And my first question was, why isn't the teacher doing something? Why isn't this being stopped? I almost, in my own ignorance, thought that maybe this was a fresh teacher that wasn't comfortable confronting high school students. I feel like a real opportunity to teach was completely overlooked. And as the father of a child who is a year behind being able to take this gentleman's class, that concerns me. So, really, I think that was a major decision that this gentleman made at that time that is obviously having a major impact on this whole community. And I think that shouldn't be taken lightly. Like I said, I don't want to damn him. I don't think he's necessarily a bad person, but this decision shows extreme insensitivity in knowing, I hate using that word because I feel it's been thrown around too much, but in this particular instance, I feel like he had a real opportunity to actually stop this. But when I found out that he had actually reviewed the material beforehand and allowed it to happen, and in fact, then I found out that he actually assigned the topic of the KKK to these students with the jingle and so forth, I found it very hard to believe that, yes, a factual event, something that actually happened in this country, could be made into such a joke, in such a way. Now, the students, I believe, certainly could have written that jingle from a different perspective, but they didn't. As a parent of a high school student, I understand that they were probably looking for some shock value. But what glares is that, the fact that the teacher had reviewed the material, knew exactly what was going to be presented, and was actually confronted by a student in the class. There was a student in the class. I want everyone to understand that a student in the class had seen the lyrics and asked the teacher to not allow it to happen because they were uncomfortable with it. I think that we all, in these days and times, generally know that if there's one person that has a problem with something that's going to happen, we have to kind of stop it right then because we don't know what can happen. This student expressed extreme discomfort in what she read and what she knew was going to be presented, told the teacher this, and his response was, if you have a problem with it, you should call your lawyer. If a teacher ever spoke to my daughter that way, I hope he has a lawyer. So I think the real question here is not whether he's a great person, but whether he made a decision that could change his career. And that's unfortunate, but I also have learned in my short 37 years on this planet that sometimes the best things can happen from the worst things. And that's really all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Cal Carver. I live at Willard Road. I am John's youngest son. I also just want to say that last year I had a really unique opportunity to live in New York City, and I worked at a store called Barney's. And at Barney's, one of the things that was such an amazing experience for me was that I was the only white person on my floor. And coming from a place like Dover, I had never really experienced that before. And, you know, me and my friends from my colleagues that I worked with, that I'm still close with, we sort of joked about that. And so I just want to say that I had a really unique experience with diversity and hearing things that people went through that I had never experienced, and it was a learning curve. You have to learn about the things that happen to other people. So no one is telling you not to be offended by what was said, and I just want to make that very clear, that you are allowed to be affected by what was said. In 2006, I threw a temper tantrum with my dad, claiming that he only liked my brother Sai, and that he didn't like the things that I was interested in, and he only liked the things that Sai was interested in, which was sports and things, typical boy things. And my dad responded to this really silently, and it took me several years actually to learn what he had done for me. So what did he do? He went to the Dover High School drama club teacher, Miss Mercereau, Miss M, and said, "Can I be in this year's production?" Which was Guys and Dolls. Miss M said, "Yes, of course." And he was Society Max in the production. And I remember that my dad was really balding at the time, so they had painted his hair. And he had on stage makeup. He was in full costume. He was rehearsing with the drama club students, something that was so far removed from the baseball field, from the classroom, from his comfort zone, to make me feel safe, to make sure that he knew he was making and that I knew that he was making an effort to understand me and to understand who I was, and to make sure that I felt regarded and that I felt respected. And I'm sure that had a positive impact on those drama club students too, to see Coach Carver let go of this, you know, tough locker room guy and really free himself in a creative way. And you know, my dad has never asked me to be anything but exactly who I am, and has worked really hard to make sure that I always feel comfortable in the school, at home, anywhere. And I think a lot of people would make the assumption that my dad and my brother Sai are closer because maybe they have more in common on the surface. But I always like to think that my dad and I are connected because we've worked that much harder to not only understand the reasons that he and I are different, but to really appreciate them about one another. And in that learning process, we've found that we're fundamentally the same, and I know that acceptance and that willingness to learn about others carries over into all aspects of his life. So I have a really, really difficult time believing that if you approached my father in a respectful, mature way and said, "This makes me really uncomfortable, Mr. Carver. As a biracial student at Dover High School, I am uncomfortable with this assignment." I know that my dad would take that seriously. But if you are not mature about a situation, my dad does not have the time to tolerate that, because I know Dover High School prides itself on mature young adults. As a student, I preached loud and clear that you had to go out into the world and you had to experience it. But for my dad, this is his world, a community that helped raise him and a community that he helped raise. I feel so lucky of all the blessings in my life to have my dad. And I look at the kids in the school and I look at people in the community and I see people who are lucky to have my dad as well because he raised 20 years worth of students. Because I'm running out of time, I just want to wrap it up with this thought. The KKK is extremely uncomfortable, but so are the Jim Crow laws and the civil rights movement. So is the 300 times that the N-word appears in To Kill a Mockingbird, which, by the way, I had to read out loud as a junior in high school. I had to read that word out loud, and that made me uncomfortable. But as a mature student at Dover High School, as president of my class, I made the decision to not make a mockery of that, because it's an important thing to learn. So is the extermination of millions of Jews in Nazi Germany. So are the 120,000 Japanese Americans that were incarcerated on US soil. So is the rape and pillage and colonizing of Native American lands. So is the Armenian, the Rwandan, the Cambodian genocides. So is the topic of sexual assault. So is the topic of sexual orientation and religion. I'm finishing up, thank you. But history and cultural studies are chock full of that. I'll leave you with this. There's a quote by Robert Frost that says, "I am not a teacher, but an awakener." And it is the job as an educator to awaken students and bring visibility to these uncomfortable topics, especially to a city like Dover that so famously lacks diversity, or else we live in ignorance. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Judas James. First name is Judas, last name is James. A lot of people get that confused. Last name seems to be a first name. I'm Laura Lane in Dover. First, I want to say to the Kava family, I know this is a very difficult time for you, and it's something that's it's a very touchy subject. It's race in this, racial inequality in this country is something that a lot of people try to just walk away from because they don't want to deal with it. But if we're talking about other situations like sexual orientation, a lot of people communicate to each other and they discuss it because it's more comfortable to discuss. But racial inequality in this country is something that's very easy to hide. Now, I do not know your dad. He may be a really great dad and a really great person. But I want to give a really, really quick example. And I've been discussing that with my girlfriend, who was white, and other members of our family. So, gentleman was a great guy. He lives in the neighborhood. Everybody knows him. He's a really good guy. He walks into a bank, and there's a bag of money sitting on the floor, right? He walks into the bank, and at that moment, he sees the bag of money. He grabs it and walks out. He gets arrested. A lot of people say, oh, that's a really great guy. I can't believe he did something like that. That's not true. He didn't do it, right? But he made that one little moment of, just that time it looked great. It was okay. He took the money, he walked out, and then things changed for him. It's a situation that's happened with your dad. It's very similar after I watched the video. Kids kept on going with the jingle, and I was kind of waiting for that video at one moment where he says stop, and that didn't happen. Now, I spoke personally with the young lady who made the video, and I asked a few questions. Did anybody mention to the teacher that, this was something that they were not comfortable with? And she said, yes, she did. And I said, okay, and then what was said to you later? She said that he didn't stop the case, but as things went on, he told her basically that she should get a lawyer. That's where I got a little upset. As a teacher, right? One of the jobs that you as a teacher have is that when kids walk into your classroom after they leave their households, you're technically raising kids after they've left home. So for 8 hours a day, you technically have kids in the classroom, and as teachers, you're doing, your job is bifold, right? So kids walk in, and you're raising those kids until they go back home to their parents. These kids may be great kids, but at that one moment, they made a mistake. So what do we do as teachers? Now we stop them and say, let's regroup. Let's figure this out. The teacher knew firsthand what the jingle was going to be about. A student said they didn't feel comfortable, and they were told to basically get a lawyer. So not saying your dad's a bad guy. I'm not saying your dad should lose his job. What I'm saying is that the administration should stop. Just like a police officer shoots a black teen, right? He gets placed on leave, most of the time on paid leave, but he gets placed on leave until they could figure it out, and then after that, they go back to what needs to be done. Sometimes, half the times from the videos we watch, it's not right. But at this instance, the teacher was allowed to get back into the school system to teach while the investigation was still going on. And I think that was wrong. But how do we fix this situation? Okay? When I spoken to many of the kids in the school, they said most of the teachers in the school are basically white. Okay? If you're teaching African American students, if you're teaching Indian students, or any other ethnicity, I think the school as a whole, the teachers teaching classroom should basically match, or the demographic should be similar to what they're experiencing in the classroom for students. So in that situation with the jingle being said, okay, that jingle was offensive. Now I know most people say, it doesn't represent me, so it's not my problem. Okay? When the KKK was burning and hanging black people, it wasn't a white person's problem. Okay? It's very easy to say, not my problem, so I'm not gonna go outside to help. Listen, and you can tell, I served in the military. I served in a submarine, a whole bunch of white guys. I'm gonna tell you, every single one of them, if I was to call them up today, they would show up in an instant to help me. Every single one of those guys had my back, okay? I went to bed every single night in the middle of the ocean. My parents, nobody knows where we are. And I can tell you right now, every single one of those kids had my back. Now, every one of them I knew, and they were great kids. 4 of the kids that I served with are in prison right now. 1 for selling information to a foreign entity. He was a great kid. I loved him. He was a great guy. He had my back. But he did the wrong thing. So, was he a bad kid? No, but he did the wrong thing. There's another kid that I served with, I knew very, very well. Great kid, right? He ended up being a child molester. Was he a great guy? He was a great guy. I could tell you everything about him because I knew him personally. But he made that mistake, right? All I'm just trying to say to you, I'm not saying that your dad's a bad guy or the teacher's a bad teacher. All I'm saying is that one moment, okay, the choice he made was to not stop the kids from continue to jingle after one of the other kids in the classroom said, I did not feel comfortable. I am not comfortable with this. He used the wrong words by saying, tell it to your lawyer, go get your lawyer. That was wrong. So how do we fix it? I am asking, I've spoken to many of my friends, asking, hey, maybe something now that the administration can use this as a way of creating now a more diversity in the group of teachers that they have in school, and bringing more of a bit of racial sensitivity to say, okay, I'm not asking for every little bit of assignments given, every book provided need to be reviewed by the board, but I'm saying that there should be a way to stop such from happening again. Thank you.
Thank
Hi, my name's Daniel Ponto. I'm a resident of Court Street in Ward 2. And I first moved to Dover 17 years ago when I was 8 years old. And I came from Canada in 2001. And that was the first year that I began to learn what racism looked like, because that's when I first started to experience it. And there has not been a year that I've lived in New Hampshire without experiencing racism. You know, I wasn't given the opportunity to learn about racism through some kind of course or class. People like me, people of color, youth of color in New Hampshire, we learn about this through our everyday experience of just living our lives. And I see and hear a lot of people talking about the humanity of the teacher, and I think that's important to talk about our humanities. I would also like to, for this community and for this school board and this administration, to talk and center the humanity of the people most impacted by this issue, the youth of color and the students of color at this school. Public school is tough for everyone, but especially for marginalized communities. When incidents highlighting our region's racial insensitivity happen, they tend to be quickly resolved as independent incidents. As a longtime resident of New Hampshire, I know that this is not the case. I think the school's solution to this issue should address the broader problem with racial insensitivity in our system and in our culture, rather than the quick fix that we often crave. I believe that this problem will need to be solved with the feedback and guidance of affected communities at the center of this conversation and leading the response. I believe every faculty member should undergo a cultural competency training that is ongoing and not a one-off training, and be allies to students of all backgrounds. And as this world becomes increasingly more diverse, I also believe that cultural competency should be part of the curriculum for all students. And this past October, we had a youth forum on race and racism in Manchester. We invited students of color and their allies from all across the state to get together and talk and strategize around how we could solve this issue or begin to work on this issue in New Hampshire. And I just want to lift up some of the things and action items that came out of that conversation. So hiring more people of color and marginalized communities into faculty and positions of power, encouraging and empowering youth leadership, the creation of a diversity committee at the administration level, ending the white savior complex, quote, don't invite them to the dinner, have them create the menu, proactive solutions like cultural competency trainings for faculty, for students and curriculum, and line items in the budget for addressing diversity and inclusion, partnering with local organizations working on racism, providing opportunities for students to get involved with organizations, more representation of people of color in textbooks and other parts of the curriculum, more opportunities for students to be exposed to different cultures, and then ways that administration can support students is providing a safe system for delivering feedback and lived experiences at the school, support network for marginalized communities, a physical space and system, and empowering teachers to be proactive about these issues and providing bystander training for all teachers so that they can intervene when these things happen. And then I think the school has a great opportunity coming up in 2019 with Black History Month for better programming, not just for students, but for all faculty and this community. So thank you very much.
Hi. Oh, that's okay. My name's Jennifer McDonald. I have a student who goes to Garrison Elementary School. I live on Hanson Street in Dover. And I actually had this whole thing I was gonna say, but honestly, hearing all the hearts of all the people that were here, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what it felt like to be a person of color in a place that doesn't see you. Because I am a person of color. My mom is Korean. She came here as an immigrant. And most people on the street would not even tell. Most teachers cannot tell. And so I've had issues where people have asked my sisters if they speak English, even though their last name is McDonald, because they look Asian. I've had issues where I've had people that will treat me differently because they find out that I'm an Asian person, and this has all happened in Dover. So to say that this isn't the Dover that we know, we're all lying to ourselves, because we all know someone that has had an issue whether it's been racial, where it's been neurodiversity, whether it's been any time where you have felt that people looked at you differently. This affects you, because if we say this is okay, then we're saying all of that is okay. And that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help us, that doesn't help our community, that doesn't help the world. So we really need to look at ourselves and say, where can we look at this from a place of love, and where can we fix this for the future generations and also for ourselves? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Demain, and I live on Belknap Street. Hello, members of the Dover School Board and fellow Dover residents. I was a substitute teacher across all 5 schools during last school year, and I'm here to talk about the recent incident that everyone's been talking about of racial insensitivity that occurred at the high school. I anticipate that there's a response that the school board's going to have, and I expect it to be acknowledged at all of the schools in an age-appropriate manner, because all of these students are part of this larger community. And as someone who taught Dover students between kindergarten and grade 12, I can tell you that there was no substitute teacher training that I was mandated to attend. There was a background check that I experienced, and I was hired. And my first day of school of teaching was me confirming my identity at the main office and then just showing up. There was no conversations around these are the core curriculums. There's no pieces around this is how you are a substitute teacher. This is what it's like to teach classrooms. And while there's a lot of pieces around the education side of that, I think going to the cultural competency side of it, I ask that the board incorporate substitute teachers in any and all trainings that salaried staff are going to be expected to attend as part of a result of actions as a result of this incident, because there's a lot of spaces. I mean, I was able to be a full-time teacher for about 4 to 5 months for every single one of those school days, and no one talked to me about how to address a problem like this. So I anticipate for all substitute teachers to be a part of any trainings that you have. Thank you.
Good evening, Paula DePlanch, 20 Mathis Hill in Dover. I'm here to speak on behalf of the educator's character. I've been a family friend for over 40 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Dover and a graduate of this high school. I have worked full-time in this community for approximately 35 years. I've been friends with the educator's sisters since our sophomore year at Dover High. I have attended many family weddings, high school graduations, baby showers, and funerals. Their family has always been a welcoming, inclusive one. Each one has always been displayed with respectful, loving manner and attitude towards all, no matter their race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity. In my personal dealings with the educator, he has always presented himself as a serious educator and not one who took his responsibilities lightly. Each one of the educator's siblings have an exceptional work ethic, one instilled in them by their parents. Also, as a community volunteer, I had served on the Dover Adult Learning Educating Board of Directors for 9 years. And in their ESL program, they have each year over 54 different members of varying countries that attend their system. I think if there's any diversity training, we might want to look to them, because there are several people who I have encountered over the years through my experience, and there are lots of sensitivities to people's traditions and beliefs. So if there's any way that that can be used, I was always taught that skin color didn't matter. I was taught that you love one another. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Roger Hayden. I live on Lexington Street in Dover. Thanks for your time. I know you're volunteers. Sat through many meetings in Durham until 10, 11, or 12 o'clock at night. So I'll try to keep it short. I've got 2 or 3 aspects here. First, I'll tell you what I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened in that classroom during this incident. Been a lot of hearsay. There's been a video, so the only actual evidence of what happened was the audio-video recording that's been documented. So what I do know is that no one here or anywhere except the people in that classroom know exactly what the words were that were spoken, or the tone of voice, or the implication, or the suggestions that might have come with those words, except those students and the teacher in question. And as we all know, when you have a group of kids sitting around in a circle and they whisper into each other's ears, what goes in one ear comes out differently as they go around the circle. So the real embarrassment here is the media jumping on the bandwagon again about what's going to be sensational. I had dinner with some friends of mine down at Belmont, Mass. Some work in New York City. They came to me and said, what's all of this stuff we're reading about, all of this stuff in Dover, New Hampshire? 2 friends from New York City that live and work there, 2 doctors, had a lawyer from Boston say he read something in the Boston Globe. What the heck is going on in Dover, New Hampshire? Here we go. Hearsay to the nth degree. As we've all seen throughout the university community, students protesting speakers that are controversial. Regardless of what the controversy is, students across these universities have protested and had controversial speakers disallowed or kicked off of campus, or even at the University of New Hampshire, have been chased off of campus because people don't agree with their opinion. What's really unfortunate here is that any individual, for any reason, has now been given license to attack anyone else because that other person has a differing opinion than theirs. Whether it's right or wrong, the opinions, the concept is pathetic. If someone disagrees with you, you have now been given license by the media to attack them. Who gets the video out on YouTube first? That must be what happened. Oh, here I go. I'm in the news now. This is what we've seen here. I am sure I don't know the exact words that were spoken between people in the classroom. I've seen some of the video. I haven't even seen all of the video because it has been so overblown that I couldn't even render an honest opinion of what happened. However, I'll tell you what I do know. I do know across the country, there are more than 100 universities that have now gotten together to tell freshman students coming in that if you think you're going to find safe spaces, if you're going to protest against controversial speakers, if you're going to react violently or viciously or in groups because of trigger words, don't come to our university. They have gotten the idea finally embedded, which was embedded in universities originally, that when you come to university, you are kicked out of your safe space and you are confronted and you are made uncomfortable, because that is being uncomfortable in the thought process and in your learning experience is the foundation of cognitive thinking. This is what creates real adulthood. Cognitive thinking, forming your own, thank you. You form your own opinion as an individual person based on what you have listened to and seen. And if you avoid listening and seeing things that you are uncomfortable with, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. The last thing I'll say, I'm almost there. I do know that I believe in the teacher in question. I stand with him and by him. I've known him for 8 years. I thank him publicly. My name is Roger Hayden. I thank the teacher publicly for helping me raise a fine young man who went through Dover High School, has graduated from college. The cognitive thinking that my son has gained partly is due to the teacher in question. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Green. I live at Middle Road in Dover. Lived in Dover all my life except for 4 years of college. I work in Dover. You all have a very difficult issue to deal with. There are a few things I'd like to point out. A couple of the earlier speakers have stated this, but the narrative here was created by a 16-year-old student who filmed what was going on, some accounts saying after the class was told not to use their cell phones. The student reports, the student who did this recording reports that she was told to get a lawyer when she brought her concerns to the teacher. I've heard earlier speakers say they viewed the video, no one said stop. The video I viewed is certainly not the whole class. The video I viewed is cut off midway through this jingle that was being sung. When I went to school in Dover, I remember learning about the Holocaust. I'm Jewish. It's uncomfortable hearing about gas chambers and Zyklon B, and it's uncomfortable. Maybe it shouldn't have been, but it was. Having students enthusiastically read to the entire class about these things. And my face would flush, and you know, maybe some students knew that I would feel this way when these things would happen. You know, I think it's really important that the extra public attention that this thing is received because it was recorded and put on YouTube doesn't cause everybody to react so they look like they're dealing with an issue when in fact what they could be doing is simply reacting, which would just give the appearance of dealing with a much deeper seated issue. I've dealt with bias throughout my schooling in Dover. One of the accounts I've read about this incident said that the two boys who gave the presentation consented to being recorded. That brings up a really interesting point. Should students be able to consent? If they can consent to being recorded, what else can they consent to? You also should think about these two boys' future. Dover High puts its yearbooks online. If I cared to, I could identify both of those boys, so any prospective employers, universities can also identify them. I've heard people talk about the laughter that can be heard in that videotape. Kids especially laugh when they're uncomfortable. Another incident this week involving a California teacher, you can hear laughter in a video as a boy student has his hair cut by his teacher while she's singing the Star-Spangled Banner. He's not doing it because he thinks it's funny. I'd point out again, though, the recording never should have been made, and I don't know if we want to incentivize. When I was here, I think the school was around 1,600 students, 1,600 amateur reporters, all with video cameras, who will see your reaction to this and possibly think, well, I'm going to record the next thing that makes me uncomfortable. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Timothy. I'm from Cabinet Street, Dover. Actually, I live with my girlfriend, and she's white. And when I saw this on Saturday, I was not only disturbed, but I was actually kind of disappointed in not only the faculty and also in the students. But I gave it some time. I didn't really look into what the media was saying because I knew everything was going to be different. So I waited till today to hear from the parents, from the teachers, from everybody basically. And to be honest, I'm happy, first off, that the video was made. If the video was never made, then this would never been a thing. This would never been another situation. This would have been another situation that would have been overlooked by, but a lot of situations across the country, across the world, honestly. Another thing, someone already brought up the laughter. I understand. I'm 23 years old. I laugh at things when I'm uncomfortable too. But to be honest, if there was already action being taken place, and then to hear that even the students were divided, you didn't hear the whole class laughing, you heard a couple students laughing. So you can already tell that some people in the class were not trying to have it. They weren't allowed it. So basically that's all I have to say, is that I'm just disappointed that this is even a thing, but I'm happy that we're coming together and we're talking about this. Because as a black person, I don't like the fact that I get stared at with my girlfriend. I don't like the fact that people have something to say bad negatively towards me or to my girlfriend. But to hear that kids are now making a joke and a jingle, and a Christmas jingle of all things, like this is supposed to be a time we're supposed to come together, and now it's like we're dividing, and that's not good. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric James, Laura Lane, Dover. One of my biggest issue with this situation is that we all are here right now trying to figure out a way to fix what we think is either negative or what we think was not so negative on the point of the teacher. I don't think that teacher is a bad person, nor is the kids. But what I look at is that now a lot of kids in the school is divided, right? Some kids are divided in the fact that, oh, well, you don't like what happened to my teacher, what this person is saying about my teacher, so now I don't like you anymore. I'm gonna stay on this side, you could stay on that side. Or you have black friends, I don't like the fact that you have black friends, right? We all also talk about the Holocaust. I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna say it. The Holocaust was not caused by America. I'm gonna say it out loud. But slavery was caused by America, right? And if we're gonna move forward, we have to teach the history. We're only teaching history and we're hiding certain things in our history. Why? Why are we doing that? We shouldn't hide it, right? Because whatever happened to those black people is American history, right? The same way Pearl Harbor, it's American history, right? But yet still in class we could talk about the Holocaust. It's history. It's history to who, right? You might say I'm insensitive, but I'm not. I'm just saying the fact that we need to look at this in a different perspective and say, okay, it's American history that should be taught to all kids, and kids should not be insensitive, okay? You need to be sensitive, not insensitive. All right, some of you guys are driving around your little trucks with your Confederate flag, right? Think it's, oh yeah, it's American history. But look deep into that flag and see what kind of history it is. And maybe you guys will put that flag down, okay? So, that teacher, I don't think you're a bad person. Wherever you are, if you're here or not, I don't think you are. The kids, I don't think they're bad kids. But at the same time, in that video, when I saw it, first thing I said, where is the teacher? That's what I said. Where is the teacher? Because it says, let's get together and end politics and kill black people. This was not saying something of the past, it's saying something of now. Something that should be done, okay? The KKK was part of politics back in the days. They were the policemen, they were the judges, the lawyers, everything. So black people had no rights no matter what they did, no matter what they tried. Okay? So we're saying let's get together to end politics and kill black people? Yes, I got offended. Okay? And that teacher himself should have stood up and say, hey, stop. Stop, stop, stop. That is not what the jingle should have said or sound like. So if we want to rewrite this class or rethink how we go ahead with this class, right, we need to teach these kids a better way of learning American history, which is black, white, Indian, whichever one you guys want to talk about. Stop hiding it. Teach it, okay? I think it's now a time that Dover and all New Hampshire should have at least one semester of black history. At least a semester where every student in the school learns some black history, and then they won't be insensitive towards what happened to black people and how we are struggling right now to move forward. I have 2 college degrees. I got laid off. I won't tell you guys why I got laid off. And I've been putting my applications out to different places to get another job. It's tough. So I went back and worked for myself. Do you think it's fair that I have 2 college degrees, right? I'm also paramilitary, and it's still tough for me to get a job? It's not fair, because when I walk in to certain places for an interview, they look at me, oh, you Eric James? because my name does not fit my color. Eric James does not fit my color. Thank you. It's not fair. So honestly, guys, I think we need to look at this in a different way and teach these kids. Teach these kids how to feel sorry, how to love, and how to have understanding. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paula Lavoie. I live at 96 Watson Road in Dover. I've lived in Dover all of my life. It's my home. And I've been asking myself, what is there we can learn from this very difficult experience? I know the person, the teacher, the human being, the wonderful man that he is. I know him. And I care about him. And I care about the students in Dover. My wonderful grandchildren are black. And sometimes on a survey, I check off that I'm black, because in this community, we are not diverse. Colleges, universities, they're bringing in black people, other kind of racial determinations, so that we can be more diverse. But I don't think the teachers are getting diversity training. And I think that the teacher in question had an intention to teach the children what they need to learn. That the KKK was a mistake. We didn't stick up for what we needed to stick up for in our society, that all people are created equal. That's all. Thank you.
My name is Christine Baber, and I live at 5 Jerry's Lane in Dover. This has been a very painful experience, but as is the case with many crises, we find that there is also a great opportunity that can go along with this. I was an educator for almost 3 decades, and I am well aware of what can happen in the classroom, even when you have great expectations for your wonderful lesson plan. I also realize that it is the teacher's responsibility to manage, to monitor what goes on in the classroom. I do not know any of the individuals involved in this situation. I am grateful to the school board and whoever else was involved in giving us this opportunity tonight to listen to many of our neighbors, our friends, other Dover residents share their feelings about what has gone on. I think, as several people have mentioned, this is not an isolated incident in Dover. Some of my friends of color, some of my immigrant friends have talked about their experiences, which have not been videotaped. Walking across Henry Law Park and being told, why don't you go back to your own country? Another friend of mine with also 2 degrees, advanced degrees, going to City Hall looking for a job and trying to talk with anyone she can. She was told there was a janitorial position open at the bus station, and she might want to look into that. And her feeling was that because she did not speak English well, because her skin was a different color, they were not giving her the same opportunity, the same hearing. So I think that what we have to accept, and trying to move beyond the specifics to looking at the climate in Dover, the climate in New Hampshire, the climate in the United States. We have to accept that our country, our city, is racist. If we listen to the people of color that have spoken tonight, it's not hearsay when they talk of their experiences. As a white person, I have white privilege. I want to support my friends and neighbors who do not share that privilege and listen to them. I think, I don't know how we move forward, but I think one of the things we have to do is listen to the people of our community who may not share white privilege, who have had different experiences, and may have very different ideas about how we move ahead. So again, I want to thank you all. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight. Never seen this many people, I don't think, at any of our public meetings in Dover. And I think what it says is that there are a lot of people who care. And if we can come together as a community to move forward, I think there is a real opportunity here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Goss. I currently live in Lawn Ave in Saco, Maine, but I grew up in Dover. I'm a former student. I'm sorry? Yeah. I live at home still in Grady's Lane, but I have an apartment in Maine.
Are we going to allow? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm a former student of Dover High School, class of 2014. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I wish to share a couple of stories with you about the teacher in question. When I was a freshman student here in the 2010-11 school year, I broke my leg in a freak accident. Not only was I devastated because I broke my leg, but baseball tryouts were just a few weeks away. There was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to try out in a full-legged cast from ankle to hip and walking on crutches. A few weeks passed, and there I was at tryouts watching all my friends who I grew up playing ball with, fielding ground balls and hitting the batting cage. The first day of tryouts, though, was the day I introduced myself to the head coach. But instead of a nice to meet you greeting, he responded with, "I already know who you are, and you don't have to worry about anything. I've been watching you play ball for years now." It turned out one of the greatest relationships I've ever had with the man who has undoubtedly made me the person I am today. Started years before I'd even met him, and his influence is still carried within me today. Without question, the project of the students and the teachers' class has severely upset and uneased the community. By no means do I support the actions taken by the students on that day, and I have full trust in you to provide just consequence as you see fit. However, I truly believe that the teacher's position as a teacher and head coach of the varsity baseball team should remain the way it's been for over the last 20 years. To remove this man from the Dover school system would be a big mistake, preventing future students from experiencing important influences he grants to his students, his unexplainable philosophies to life, and future students would also miss out on the support and care he's given and continues to give each student who walks through the doors. Among the many things that he's taught me, the three that stand out most are respect, teamwork, and leadership. At a school in which you are expected to behave as an adult but treated like a child, difficulties are bound to arise. The one thing that made the teacher stand out, he always treated you as an equal, a friend, an adult. My senior year baseball team was composed of 9 seniors who I considered and still consider my family. A team is supposed to have a captain, a leader in which to look up to, but with us it was different. Our coach knew that our teamwork and chemistry would be compromised had one person been elected for captaincy. Thus, the Jedi Council was created, a baseball team comprised of not 1, but 9 senior captains. We ended up 14-4, finishing an amazing season as the first #1 seed in Dover High School history. Without the respect, freedom, and care that our coach gave to our team, we would have not been nearly as successful. My last story deals with one of the biggest regrets that I have during my time in high school here. I ignorantly made an inappropriate comment in regards to my coach about missing practice due to after-school academic help. To my 11th grade teacher, pre-calculus teacher, I stated to her that I would be unable to come after school for help because I had practice and my head coach is a quote-unquote hard A about that kind of thing. Of course, naive me never would have expected that teachers talk to each other. They did. The very next day, my coach pulls me aside during practice to talk to me about what I had said, and you got that feeling in your stomach that you knew you screwed up. But instead of getting after me about my ignorance, he said to me with a smile on his face that I must have been mistaken, and by no means should I go to practice if I needed extra help after school. He proceeded to genuinely invite me to come see him during my free time if I ever needed any academic help, as he has and always will put his student-athletes' academic success before himself. I'll leave you with this. Out of everyone in the world, I may have the biggest fear of public speaking, and even after my 4 years of college, my fear has not gotten any better. But seeing the most influential man in my life under the gun of the community, I had no choice but to let my voice be heard. That's why I chose to be here tonight. And if that doesn't prove to you the respect and gratitude that I have for the teacher, I don't know what will. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Timothy Dalbeck. I live on South Pine Street. I have 2 daughters who go to this school. I am the father of a mixed family, and let me clarify that a little bit. In the fact that it's a mixed family, I adopted both of my daughters, and they are both of African American descent. And in regards to this incident that has happened, this video was, what I saw was just over a minute. And the classes in this school per day are an hour and a half, a little longer, I believe. And, so we're seeing on social media and on the news media about a minute of what happened in this class. There is much more to this, and I do not envy your jobs in this matter. There's a lot that we don't know that happened. I hope that you are doing your due diligence to find out more about what happened in the classroom, what led to this, what happened after this. I don't know if there was any discussion after this in the class. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know the teacher. I don't know his curriculum. I don't know any of the students that were involved in this. I only know what has been out in the media, on social media, and that video. I do know that words are powerful. Words can be used for good, they can be used for harm. They can be intended for one thing and end up being something else. And I think that this incident has brought that to light, that we have to be careful and choose our words to make sure that what we say is not harmful. Now, these words are not just said in this video. Words like this are said frequently in this community. I know this because I have two children who go to this school who are of African American descent. And it disturbs me to hear that these things happen. I would hope that what comes out of this is a positive message to say that we have to be careful and choose our words wisely. We have to come together as a community, and we have to all become colorblind. You know, everyone in the world has their own personal bias based on their experiences. At my job, I recently had to go through personal bias training, which was a training session about overcoming your personal bias, looking beyond the face that you see of anyone, whether it is that the person is of Oriental descent, African descent, if they are male, female, how they dress, whatever. You need to know the person. You need to know their accomplishments. You need to decide who that person is based on who they are. Racism isn't just a white person using a slur against an African American person. It is anyone making any judgment about someone based on their heritage. And this is something that needs to be an ongoing discussion. And that's about all I have to say. I hope that the discussion will continue and that this will not be forgotten, because it needs to be something that we continue to openly talk about. History does need to be remembered so that mistakes do not happen. I applaud the teacher for looking at an encouraging method, at a creative method to bring this learning in and to help these students learn this knowledge. There were some mistakes made, I believe, in how it went about, and I think those mistakes can be learned from. Thank you.
My name is Ryan Hayden. I live on Lexington Street in Dover, New Hampshire, and I'm here to talk about the teacher in question. This is a man that had such a powerful influence on my life. From the moment I met him until this day, I have never met a more influential man in my life other than my own father. My father spoke earlier, and he talked about the issues that this country faces, and I not only back those, but I also support those with the idea that looking at history, speaking of a history class, looking at the First and Second World Wars, after World War I, which Germany started, in all intents and purposes, the world basically told Germany afterwards, F you, do it yourself, and handed them a huge tab. 25 years later, Germany repeated its same mistake and did the same thing. At that point, the world came together with the United Nations and said, we want to help you become not the country you've been. If you tell John Carver, or if you make John Carver leave the school district, if you make this teacher leave the school district, you are telling this teacher and the entire city of Dover the same message that the world told Germany after the First World War, and that is F you, do it yourself, and we are bound to make the same mistake over again. If you decide to reinstate this teacher, he can be a powerful influence on making this mistake not happen again. He is a voice that we can listen to, and many community members look up to him, and he is always on the forefront of our mind. I think that this man can bring positive change to this community, and if you let him go, you will take away the power of him to be able to do this. I stand with this teacher.
Devon Smith from Dover, New Hampshire. I'm not coming to speak on the teacher, but we've been there for almost 2 hours. We've all given our opinions on everything that's transpired. None of this is about the history. We all have our history, but this is about the students. This is about what happened to them. We haven't heard what they feel about it. Like, we get bits and pieces. Everybody saying they don't know the true story of what happened. Well, here it is right here. So if we want to hear what the students have to say, he told the student to go get her lawyer. We're her lawyers out here. So we're here to let them voice them. That's all I have to say.
My name is Peter Strangus. I'm from Willand Ave, 8 Willand Ave here in Dover. And when I was jotting down my notes, I didn't know that we couldn't refer to the educator by name. So can I just go with initials? Let's use, I'm just going to pull a name out of thin air. How about Preston? So I'm just really just going to read what I jotted down. So forgive me for not looking at you all the way through here. But, you know, I haven't just been friends with this gentleman, but actually best friends for, well, since we were children. And that's more than 41 years we've been best friends. And I can tell you that he's a decent man through and through. I mean, you've heard it many times tonight, but you're hearing it from me. And I've probably known him longer than just about anybody up here except for his family. He cares deeply about his family and his friends and his students. And he has a good set of values and always tries to do, you know, the right thing by all of us, really. And just kind of with my own personal story that he has been kind of pulled into. 7 months ago, my mother became very ill. And that whole time, Preston would call me every day, or he'd text me, or both, to ask how my mother was doing and how my father and my brother were getting along. He constantly offered his help, offered to help us in any way that he could. When my mother was transferred from Boston back to Dover, Preston came to the hospital to see her many times, and he kept in touch daily for all 210 days, give or take. Now, on December 3rd, my mother passed away. Just prior to her passing, you know, I told Preston that she didn't have much time left to live, and he dropped everything. And he came to the hospital, and he was by our side. You know, because I was so absorbed with what was going on with my mother, I didn't know Preston was having this job-related issue going on in his life. And because he didn't want his friend to worry about that too, because I was worrying about a lot of stuff at the time, he kept it all to himself. And for Preston, it was always about, you know, my mother, me, and the rest of our family. And when I asked him if he would be a pallbearer, he said he would be honored. And I actually hesitated to ask him because I know that he's always busy. And I wasn't even sure if he was going to be able to make the funeral, to tell you the truth. But he picked up on my hesitancy. And he said, and I quote, he said, "I will be at the wake, I will be at the funeral, I will be at the 40-day memorial, and I will be at the 1-year memorial." And I'm sure you're asking, you know, what does this story have to do with the situation that we're here to address? It illustrates that we're dealing with a very caring and selfless person who, in spite of his own heartaches, will help you with yours first. And this decency doesn't stop with Preston's friends and family, but it carries over to his students, whom he cares a great deal about, to whom he teaches a true and often a cruel history as accurately as it should be taught, with its right and wrongs. Preston is a great educator, not just in the classroom, but as a coach, where he isn't just trying to get the most out of his athletes on the playing field, but also teaching them to be good people. He is entwined in the fabric of the Dover school system, in our community in general, as he has been involved in it one way or another throughout his life. My hope is that the school board is going to move through its investigative process succinctly and move Preston to where he belongs, and that is back to the classroom and the athletic field, where he can continue to make a positive impact in his students' lives. The students in the Dover School District are entitled to have the best educators at the front of their classrooms. They deserve to have John Carver teaching them about what happened in the past and the right way to go forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jada Parham. I'm a senior here at Dover High School. With the incident that occurred last week, a group of students and myself have built a group to focus on change, equality, and inclusion. That group being called DREAM, which stands for diversity, respect, educate, advocate, and mission. We would like to show throughout this group which each of those terms mean to us.
Hi, I'm Lily Sponigal, and we're not here to preach to you, and we're not here to change your opinions. We're here to open your eyes and to educate everyone about racism and this jingle that has been our stepping stone to stand up and try to end this hate. In history, we are supposed to learn about tragic events and to put ourselves into the shoes of those who have suffered and to learn from it. Making a song and making a joke of something so terrible is not how you learn. There's things to joke about, and the KKK is not one. All we're asking is to treat everyone equal and to respect everyone.
I'm Tatiana. As Project Dream, I'm here to represent D, meaning in diversity. Diversity to us is coming together no matter what race, religion, or culture you come from or what you study, all achieving a goal. As a group, we want to come together to make a difference or have a voice to talk about race and educate others on such topics. We don't want anyone to feel excluded or feel unwanted because what they look like, what they study, or what they believe in. Everyone is welcome.
Hi, I'm Kayana Marrow. We will respect the many and diverse people of this school and treat everyone equally with respect. We all have different views on how we see the world, but that shouldn't change how we treat each other. Opinions make our character, and we will acknowledge them and respect all views fairly. Respect is something this world needs instead of judgment, so let's make a change.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm a sophomore at DHS. I'm speaking about education. We want to educate as many people as possible about racism in our school. This has been an ongoing situation even before the KKK jingle. This has been ignored for way too long, but not anymore. In another aspect, we want to educate students on history other than American or European. To have a class that has a more widespread focus on cultures and their history would be a great achievement. Michelle Obama once said, when someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you do not stoop to their level. Our motto is, when they go low, you go high.
Hello, I'm Miracle. I'm speaking for advocating. Advocating is standing up for yourself and others. That is what teachers tell us as students all the time. Then why is it when we as students stand up, we are taken as a joke, or the problem isn't solved? This is a time that we're standing up for what we believe in. This is a time that things aren't getting swept under the rug. And as the great Martin Luther King Jr. once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?
Evening. My name is Matt Kelty. You heard our beliefs and drive, and now we shall share what direction we would like to head towards, aka the mission. We pitch to you the following actions could be taken at Dover High School: to spread awareness of our group and why we exist, to teach kids how to cope with racial abuse, to empower students to use their voice, to share stories to further spread the message. We could learn more about the history of racism and what it means. We could explore other cultures that, other than the European and American heritage. Guest speakers could be brought in. Volunteers could help out. It'll all be in service of our mission to provide a diverse, respectful, and educated environment for all students. Every single one. No kid should ever feel threatened in a school.
I'm here with only 6 more months left in my high school career. I could choose to stay strong, finish my work, and leave not knowing what could happen. But I'm choosing to be a part of this change. I fear that my younger brother will face these fears as a young black man, and I choose not to only fight for my brother, but any other future students here at DHS. Thank you for allowing us to speak and your time.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Breen, and I have resided in Dover for nearly 40 years. I currently live on Newton Street. I'm also a graduate of Dover High School. My siblings, my children, my nephews were all educated in the Dover school system and graduated from Dover High. I stand before you tonight in support of the teacher, John Carver, who I am proud and privileged to call brother. I would also like to say kudos to every single one of you who just spoke. You have already begun to create something positive from this situation, and I know that I can speak for my brother in saying he would be proud of you. Like me, thank you. Like me, many of you know my brother has a huge heart, is generous with his time, is friendly, and will greet you with a warm smile and a firm handshake. I recall saying to my brother when he was a teenager, "You seem to know everyone." That's because since he was a young boy, he would always greet people, everyone, including strangers. He would sometimes simply just say, "Hi, hope you have a great day." I often saw smiles on people's faces just because he greeted them, and he really had made their day. At about the age of 7, maybe 6, when we were new to town, he reached out to another neighborhood boy saying, "You want to ride bikes?" They've been friends ever since. I personally don't oppose music in the classroom as a teaching method. I have been pondering how music is part of our lives and how most of us teach our very young. We sing to them. We sing the ABCs, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. head and shoulders, knees and toes. That's how they begin to learn. That's how they begin to retain information. Though I may struggle at times to recall factual or trivial information, I always remember how something or someone makes me feel. And music especially has that effect on me. I feel music is not only an effective tool to assist in retaining information, but it is one that evokes feelings and emotions for most of us. Music is a relatable way to teach even those lessons that may make us feel uncomfortable. It is also a way to help ease us through life's difficult and uncomfortable experiences. For example, presenting to you tonight is certainly not a comfortable experience for me. But I hearken back to a 1969 hit by the Hollies that resonates with me. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. I could now share with you many of the accolades that my brother has received throughout his lifetime. Talk about the many hours, days, years of time and the commitments he has given to our community. But for now, as one who wears her heart on her sleeve, I will close by saying my brother has always had the very best intentions for his family, his friends, his players, his students, his school, our city. John Carver bleeds Dover High green. Bring him back to the classroom, please.
My name is Benjamin Stone, and I live on Toll Ave. I'm a senior at Dover High School, and except for the people around me, and no other students have come up to speak, so I think it's a perspective that's needed up here. I think that from everyone coming up, no one debates that this jingle was a horrible thing. It was insensitive, and it was awful, and there's no way around that. It was an unfortunate event. However, firing the teacher in question is not the answer. He's a wonderful presence in the classroom, and he's a phenomenal man. I've known him all my years in high school. I've played baseball for him, and I've had 2 classes with him, and he's one of the best teachers that I've ever had. And I've seen a lot of articles online. I've seen a lot of comments on those articles, and a lot of people, yelling for his head and claiming that he's a racist. I think that's ridiculous. This man teaches respect to all his students, and he teaches it to his players. And he even has a class that I'm surprised no one brought up yet, but he has a class on it's called Native American Studies, and it's about the culture and the history and the oppression of Native Americans and how they've been wronged by people all over because of their race. And I just can't imagine anyone calling this man a racist. It's absurd. He's just always been such a cheerful, such an amazing man, and there's no way to see him as a bad one. And it's a horrible situation for you guys, I believe, to be thrown into, to have to make decisions like this. But I implore you to do what a lot of the members of the community have implored you to do, and to bring this teacher back.
Hello, I'm Amanda James from Laura Lane. I am an educator, a mom, an educator in the city of Dover, and a mom to a student who has already graduated from here and one who is currently here that is of color. And I have 3 younger children that will be in this school eventually when they grow up. I just want to begin with an example of a teacher in the school that I teach that is also my 4th grade daughter's teacher in the city of Dover. She came to me with a comment that was written on my daughter's compliment page. Now, my daughters have very unique ethnic hair that when they wear it naturally, it's very big and curly. on the compliment page was a phrase used that the teacher felt like maybe this might not be appropriate if it's read out loud. So she came to me as the mom, and she said, what do you think about this? This is how I'm feeling. I said, I don't think she would be offended by it, and I don't know, but you know what? You're right. Like, if that's used improperly, that could be probably offensive to somebody. So let's use this as a teachable moment. So we both agreed together to talk to the student and to make it a teachable moment. That is racial sensitivity. The fact that we had no one around us to ask an opinion about and had to contact outside family members of color to ask their opinion just shows what kind of community is around us, and that we will have to look beyond what's directly around us sometimes to educate ourselves. Sorry, I'm not a public speaker at all. I like little kids. I think this incident has divided some of the students in the school, and I feel sad because my student is an athlete who is the only athlete of color on her team. And she's never experienced any racism personally towards herself. She is part of a very loving team that would have her back if anybody said anything to her. She's had wonderful, loving teachers, but she's also sat in classes where these topics were talked about and has had to be excused because she'll start crying. She just is very sensitive and takes them to heart. If she had to sit in this class where a jingle was made like this and she was in the class and it was being laughed at, I know she would have spoken up right away. We don't know what happened in that class directly other than by what we have seen and what we hear. So I don't know how it was handled. I know as an educator, I've been corrected by my 4th grade students, and I would be devastated if I knew that anything affected them so deeply, and I would be apologetic and own up to it right away. I don't know how this teacher has handled it. I don't know him personally. But I think this could be a learning point for him. I think they're right when they say if you keep him in the school, he could be a leader to people that have known him and loved him in this community. I think there just needs to be training and education about racial insensitivity that people of color experience in this town. And the first step in doing that is listening to the voices and not taking sides, but just being like, wow, I didn't know that you experienced that. How can we change that? Or, yeah, this person is a fantastic, loving, wonderful, caring man. So how do we make them better? Because we all screw up. We all make mistakes. It's educating ourselves further about how to not make that mistake again. So I just ask, as the community of Dover, who is going to have more children come up into here, and as an educator of children in Dover, that we come together, we try to listen to each other and make real progress in understanding how we can maybe change our curriculum, and the fact we don't put jolly jingles to such sensitive subjects, because I know it's being done in more than just his class. You can't make a jolly jingle to fire victims or Holocaust victims or bombing victims, 9/11 victims. They would never, ever sit through something like that. So please look at the perspective from other people's eyes and just try to change. And whatever you teach and whatever you do to others, just think, would I do that to my friend, family member, or loved one? Thank you.
Is there anyone else for Citizens Forum this evening? This will be your final opportunity. Oh.
Good evening. This was really a great forum tonight. Karen Weston, French Cross Road, Dover. I come here tonight wearing two hats, a resident and everybody's mayor. And people, I think, do have an understanding, because I've heard criticism that we just don't get it, that we, the city officials, city council, school board, staff, on both the board and the city side, we work hard for Dover to be a welcoming city for all. We've had previous speakers that have addressed that, and we've even passed resolutions in front of the city council to have that. But we are a city that continues to build on a large diversity of immigrants. We all talk about our immigrants that keep on coming in, whether what ethnicity there is, but we want to welcome all people, no matter who they are, what color they are, whether they come from Japan with slanted eyes, whatever, because all people are human, and I think we all are created equal. But most important message that I would really like to address to everybody is that we want to assure that every visitor, every resident of the city, that we will do whatever we can to make everyone feel safe, accepted, and take away any incident of possible discriminations very seriously. Our goal as a city, and I mean the entire municipality, is that we treat everybody equally. It doesn't matter your sex, your creed, we are all created equal. So for all of us, we are all here to listen, whether it's the school board or the city council, that if there's ever a problem, if anybody has any indication of anything, we will all work together to take care of all of our citizens. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Butterfield, and I live on Sawyer Mill here in Dover. And I have been listening to all of this tonight, and there's just a few things that I want to say. One is that I don't think this is an either or, I think this is a both and I think the idea of talking about someone's character is irrelevant to the fact that this impacted a lot of people. So the intent of this story, which I was not there, so that is for folks to understand, the intent was definitely not to hurt people, and of course this person is a good person. That's not in question in my mind. The reality is that the impact is that people were hurt and people were made to feel like this place was not safe for them. And that's not just students who are here, that's also folks who are families who are thinking that their kids are coming to this school. And for me, to focus on the character of someone, this is the moment of that person's character. So character is not where we stand when we're in victory and in good time, it's where we stand in moments of controversy. And right now, to me, this is a time when we need to say we messed up as a community, as a person, as whoever this is, we messed up and we need to move forward, and we need to hold the impact of the people who were hurt by this as high, if not higher, than the people who may have caused that pain. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kylan Mastro. I'm a senior at Dover High School, 12 Cherokee Street, Dover, New Hampshire. What I'm going to say right now, I've been debating saying for the past 2.5 hours. I don't really get nervous public speaking, but I'm nervous right now because this is the kind of subject that I guess touches me a lot. When I was 8 years old, I got really angry and I kicked down my basement door. I don't know how I did it. I was really angry and I kicked the door down. And my first thought was, wow, my dad's going to be furious. He's going to be furious. It's over for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And when my dad came home and he saw that I kicked down the door, he wasn't angry. He told me, you have one door to kick down in your life. That's what he believes. And that's what I believe too. Everybody makes mistakes. I will formally disagree that one mistake is the essence of one person's entire character. And I also want to mention that in my years of Dover High School. Right now, I am a captain of the track team. I love track. I've been doing it forever, and I've met a lot of great friends through that program. Some of them are competing at UNH right now. One of them was, for a short period of time last year, the best high jumper in the state. He was an African American. I'm sure that some of you know who I'm talking about. He's a great guy, funny, awesome character. But I would notice sometimes that people would make jokes about skin color, nothing harmful, and even he would make them. He would say, "Oh yeah, I jump high because I'm black," and these are just, they don't have any malicious intent, but they can be seen as racist, and I see them as racist when I look back on it, and I think, well, would he have made this same joke in a setting that didn't have majorly white people in the audience? And so I think that's important to note. I think that we should go back and we should look at those instances and say, yes, maybe there wasn't malicious intent here, but this is a teaching opportunity. And I think that's something that we all have to do. Next to that, I also think that it's very important that we teach forgiveness and understanding. It goes back to that one door rule. He kicked down that one door. He didn't realize that this would happen. He was sitting there being a teacher, understanding that maybe the students were going somewhere with this. I don't know if that's what he was thinking, but I've had this discussion with several teachers. Where is it a teacher's place to sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to cut them off right now because this doesn't seem like something that should be going on in my classroom, which is a thought that should have been going through his head. But he also probably was thinking about the fact that maybe these students are going somewhere with this. Maybe they're going to come around to a conclusion. Evidently, that didn't happen. But isn't it a teacher's job to give students the benefit of the doubt? Isn't that what a teacher is supposed to do so that they can turn moments into teaching moments? I think it's important that we should look back and forgive this man for what he did, but not forget about the fact that it happened. We need to teach to not only him, but the entire community and the entire school that what happened here is not okay and that it cannot be tolerated. But just like was brought up before, what happens when we just say, you can't do this, you're done? Like with Germany in World War I, it happens again. We need to turn this moment into a teaching moment, but we also need to forgive and understand, and that's how we'll come together as a community, and that's how we will all learn to love each other and understand each other like so many people tonight have been saying that we should, and I believe we should too. Thank you.
My name is Lindsay Williams. I live on Mass Road here in Dover, and sorry to keep people hanging on, but I really wanted to say a couple things. So thank you all for your service and for everybody that's spoken here tonight. I'm speaking as a resident of our city and the parent of 2 small children, one of whom is in the school district already and one who will soon be joining as a kindergartner. Teaching history is essential. Teaching it respectfully with the benefit of reflection is even more important so that we learn from instead of repeat the mistakes of the past. This is a conversation for our schools, but also for our community at large, especially when some don't see how hurtful this incident and others like it are. The power of studying history is that we can seek to understand what happened in the past and how it continues to shape what happens today. I don't know the details of the incident beyond what has been reported, and I'm not here to vilify any of the parties involved, as I don't know them or their intentions. But you can be a good, nice, thoughtful person and still make a poor decision. We're here to have these discussions, and it needs to be community-wide and include all ages in the plan ahead. It starts with the awareness of our own history, but it doesn't end there. We need to listen to those in our community who are telling us that this is painful, and we need to work together to do better. There are resources like Teaching Tolerance, Black Girl in Maine, Starting Empathy, and others that I hope those in the school are aware of, but these are also resources parents and other community members can seek out to increase our own awareness and build the tools to face the difficult truths of our past and present. I appreciate the careful and thoughtful words of Superintendent Harbin in his message last week, and I encourage us all to be active and empathetic participants in these dialogues going forward. I have confidence that school leadership will address this and grow from it. It's up to us all to make sure the whole community does the same. This isn't somebody else's problem to fix. It's ours all together. Thank you.
I didn't have time to change, I'm sorry. Bob Carrier, 22 Hill Street. I've been here all my life. It's a great, safe community. We enjoy the recreation. You've got incredible teachers, administrators. The schools do a great job. And what do you think of this school? It's great. So don't let this taint the system, because it's a great community to live in. And I love it here, not going anywhere, even though you may want me to go somewhere, but I'm not. And just move forward, please, because there's a lot that you can do in this community and be proactive. So let's do it and do it together. Thanks.
I know. I'm Miracle and I'm a sophomore. I live at 21 Addison Place, and I just want to say as a student here at Dover High that this is like an eye-opener in a way, because as a person of color who goes to this school and who has the people who were once here but are no longer here, all of us, we've all come together to form that group, and I think that's kind of like our little safe place now ever since this incident happened. And I think that it's a little sad that it took that long for all us to come together just like that, just from one little jingle bell thing. But I think it's a good thing that it happened, because now we have a place to go to talk about these type of things and say how we feel. And I think that there's a lot of ways that we can actually solve this issue. I'm not going to say that he should be fired or anything, because I don't know the guy personally, nor have I had him as a teacher, but I just do think that some consequences should happen. I also think that we should have classes to educate around worldwide, so everyone can know that it's not just people who have lighter skin like you guys that, have history, but everybody has history, and that we need to learn it and need to know that everybody's struggles are different. And obviously that is true, but some are just a little bit harder than others. So that's all I got to say.
So this will be the final opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close Citizens Forum, and I would suggest we take a short recess. So while everyone is welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, the last time we had a citizen at our meeting was July. True story. Well, yes, but I tried to get you to speak and you refused. But we'll recess briefly, so if you do not wish to stay for the remainder of the meeting, you can leave, and then we'll continue with the rest of our meeting. All right, I think we're ready to go. We're now at agenda approval. Yes.
Could I motion to move the student rep report up so that way she can go home and get ready for tomorrow's school day?
Yes, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Meebert. Any other agenda changes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Courtney, you're up.
There is one over there? There should be one.
It's my 5 seconds of fame.
Fame. Is it on?
Ooh, okay. Previously, what's been happening in Dover? There were Dover tours 2 weeks ago, Tuesday through Thursday. We're still welcoming Shadows to the school. We had a successful fundraiser for Thanksgiving, and then something that was brought up during the forum a lot was the video. But something that came from that, we decided to make a group called DREAM, which stands for Diversity, Respect, Education, Advocacy, and Mission. It's formed by the students, for the students. Our advisor is Dean Waldron. We've been having facilitated meetings during all lunches for the past, since it happened actually. It happened immediately right the day after. We had a meeting during lunch about it, and anyone who wanted to say something, it was a good, respectful area that you could talk, and it was good. DREAM is not just exclusively for people of color, it's open to everyone. It talks about progressive solutions to solve problems like this in our school, and it's just a safe place for people to vent their frustrations and their concerns. DREAM meetings hopefully will be taking place during our advisory, which happens every Wednesday morning for about 30 minutes. And the goal is to bring the school community together and to have people listen and understand.
Thank you. Oh, but your parents have to stay, right? Yeah. Well, she can't drive.
Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes, discipline hearing number 3, November 5th, and regular meeting number 11.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Motion to approve. Second by Mr. Lahr. Any discussion regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. That's 7. Consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda. I'd like to pull 3A.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Lahr, thank you. So we will be approving the consent agenda with the omission of 3A. We'll discuss that after we finish. Any discussion regarding the consent agenda? Yes. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you, that's 7. Consent agenda 3A. I would entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Motion to talk about 3A.
Yeah, I need something more definitive than that.
Motion.
It's approve or not.
Motion to approve to discuss it.
Motion to approve. Yeah.
To approve for discussion.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Yep, discussion.
All right, is there a letter?
It's an addition, a separate sheet.
Oh, I wrote on it.
So we just got this tonight?
It was separate from the rest of the packet, yes.
So thank you. I mean, I've read this briefly, and forgive me if this sounds whatever. Are we basically looking for time off so that we can go find another job? Is that what the intent is here? That's how I read this, which I am not at all comfortable with. I'd be very odd if I asked my employer to give me time off so I could go find another job. So I'm inclined to deny this unless somebody has some additional information that I'm not privy to beyond what I see.
Yes, this was the one for more information. And in the past, those who were looking to seek employment elsewhere, their leaves, I have seen as a citizen who attended meetings or as a board member that those are not approved. Is there any other discussion?
He just wants 1 year. And we, does it say?
Well, it says my hope is to return.
Right, my hope. Any other discussion? So the motion is to approve. All those in favor? Opposed? You can, but it's supposed to be for for a reason, like you have a conflict or.
I don't have a conflict except in my mind.
Okay, well, you got to flip the coin then, I guess. So we had no hands to approve, or that were in favor, and those opposed again, please, sorry. Abstain, I guess? So it's 061. So the motion has failed. We have completed the student representative report. Kudos to Courtney Dalbeck for being through the longest school board citizens forum I've ever experienced. We have no policy changes or adoptions this evening. Resolutions, Dover High General Scholarship Fund. I would entertain a motion for the resolution.
I make a motion to accept the...
Motion to approve by Mr. Lahr. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Holt. Any discussion? This is an annual resolution, correct?
We currently don't have this type of trust fund set up for any
Oh. It's a new. Oh, there is one that we do annually, correct?
There's one for different
Okay.
scholarships that are already named.
Okay.
This would
All
be
right.
an unnamed scholarship where any amount could go into the scholarship and have it for, into this trust for any scholarship.
So it's an unnamed scholarship. We're creating a trust for scholarship funds that could, this trust would manage those funds. Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Thank you, that's 7. We have to sign that one. Old business, school lunch balance discussion. Is that you? That's me. You might want to grab the mic.
So I just wanted to bring it to your attention where the food service debt is at this point in time, because it's at this time it's $27,000. I've listed off in this memo all the different categories just to give you an idea where the deficits are. They're mostly in the balances of above $40, which is all the categories under the paid category. So these would be families, individuals that do not have free or reduced lunch. I listed off just some action that we've taken since the school year started, and actually started during the summer, where we mailed out applications to all families directly. We are using an outside agency to help bring in some funds to collect some of the debt service from last year. We've collected, this number says $3,424. We actually received a check recently after this was sent out in the total amount of $4,193 off of the balance of last year, which was $46,000. It is, but just being where we are at this point in the school year and that balance as of today, I just wanted to make you aware of where we were.
So the 46 was considerably higher than the previous school year.
Yes.
This is not the trend we want to be on. And the new system is sending out emails. When your child's balance is low, it sends emails.
Correct.
So people are not unaware of the amounts.
Are any of these emails getting
You
bounced?
gotta grab the mic.
Sorry, old habit. Are any of these emails getting bounced back? Like, are they getting received?
We're actually checking on that with the vendor to see, because we don't receive notifications, it's automatically generated and goes out. So we are checking with the vendor on that.
So an issue that was raised last year was that we have fewer people who've applied for free reduced lunch.
Mhm.
And so have you figured out how much of that accounts for the increase that we're seeing in unpaid? That is, there would be people who are getting free and reduced lunch, but they're not because they haven't made the application for it. But they still have to get lunch, but nobody's paying for it.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there was an effort made to do something about that. Okay, nothing's being, we can't force people to fill out the applications. I got that. The other question that I have is, how much are we paying this company to do the collection?
The collection, they take a percentage off the top.
Percentage, okay.
Yes.
Is it worth it?
I
For the
don't think
return?
we would collect this otherwise. Last year's balances.
Anything's better than nothing.
Oh, thank you. I'll keep that.
Oh, yeah, and, yeah, can I move to extend the meeting till the end of the agenda? Because we're supposed to be done at 10 o'clock, so we need an official motion. So that's an official.
Any discussion regarding extending the meeting beyond our 10 o'clock? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, that's 7. And continue on school lunch.
Okay, so I know that other districts have dealt with the same issue. And was it Farmington or Somersworth did a GoFundMe page or something like that? And then somebody.
I think Claremont too.
Yeah. And then some very generous citizens gave like $5,000 or something toward the debt. But there are families who should be receiving benefits. And it's really not in anybody's best interest to have those families not getting the benefits. So I'm just wondering if there's anything we can do if other school districts I know have gone through this kind of thing. So can we get some knowledge from other districts that might have been useful to them?
I did reach out
I
to
thought you
2
had.
area schools just to see where they were also.
Which ones?
Somersworth and Rochester.
Okay.
And they reported they're not as high as we are at this point, but they have a high level of debt as well.
Well, have they also seen the decline in the proportion of free and reduced lunch students in their schools? Like we saw a fairly major decline over the past year.
We have. I can't speak for the other schools.
Okay, and the data aren't on
It's
the
not available yet.
district websites yet.
I don't know what else we can do beyond providing applications to every student, mailing applications and having them available online. I mean, they're reached out to via email, physically, they're accessible 24 hours a day on internet. We can't force people to apply for a benefit. And we also don't deny students lunch. But
and we've had this discussion before. If you look at that application is very intimidating that the federal government's put together. So I don't know how we could orchestrate something where you invite people in and we'll help you fill it out, but it's a difficult application to navigate.
Yeah.
And so the impact is not just on the lunch program. The fact is that when people don't complete the application, that impacts our funding. So, you know, I think I understand that it may feel uncomfortable for folks, but it is important for us as a district for folks who are feeling, you know, that they could use the assistance to go and get that. So, yeah, I mean, it's important.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there anything we can do to populate the information necessary for the application somehow? Is there some way that...
we don't have access to their financials.
No, I don't mean for them. I mean create an interface that might be a little easier to use somehow. Is that... Because Bill, I understand what you're saying about those applications, and they are intense.
I don't know what it looks like online.
That's a good point.
It might be easier online than it is on paper. I'm really not sure. I haven't investigated the ease of the application online.
I see them at the beginning of the year. They are definitely intense. I wonder if we could take a look at the application online and see what it looks like.
And the other question I would just have is it possible for us to partner with other organizations such as community partners, community action? Like there are a lot of community groups out there that may be willing to help us out in some of this. So, you know, I don't know if it's worth a phone call. I know that we're connected with a lot of those organizations already, so maybe we can see if there's a way to work through that system as well.
We did have that group, remember our committee that we had for a short time, and
we started it once.
Yeah.
And you know, Betsy Andrews Parker from Community Action was an advocate for changing some of this, so that if you qualified for other assistance programs, those families would automatically be qualified. Unfortunately, the government doesn't work as fast as Betsy's suggestions. I think it's a valid suggestion and recommendation that if you qualify for fuel assistance and other services, that your children would qualify for free or reduced lunch. We need to keep publicizing this. I think it's not going to be heard currently. I think other issues are taking precedent in school news, but it's not something we should let go, and it's something that we need to remind people and continue to keep in the forefront.
Because this number represents the salary of a teacher, right? I mean, so we're losing, because of unpaid debt, a person, a teacher, a qualified teacher in the classroom, which is not acceptable. Mic drop.
Well, not only that, but Libby, do you know what date attendance on what date the state uses for determining ADM for adequacy aid?
For adequacy aid?
Yeah.
I believe they use October 1st for everything.
Okay, so if all of the people who qualify for assistance have not filled out their applications by October 1, that's a lot of money that we're not getting in adequacy aid.
Yes.
So, and talk about numbers of teachers. Yeah, that's going to be a few in there. So I think we need to do some research and see if there are some ways that we can step this up. The application process.
All right. Anything else? New business. FY20 budget overview. In the green binder this year. Fancy.
We're going to give you the quick tour as quickly as possible. In the introduction, we basically introduced two different budget models for your consideration. One is funding where we absolutely are just looking at what we're the programs and services we're currently provided, along with contractual obligations. The other one we titled Forward, and the Forward one basically is looking at what are the necessary and essential human resources to accomplish the strategic plan, what's needed, the essential and ongoing professional learning to continually train district and school educators to effectively implement the district's educational programs, and also instructional resources to support the learning endeavors of all students. So in this one, we looked at, as it says, we looked at human resources, we looked at professional learning, and we also looked at what other resources do we need to support the learning programs. And Libby has done a good job of detailing all that out, as well as we've detailed the additional staffing that's needed also.
So moving on from the introduction is a sheet just for the budget assumptions, and these are just known items that we have now as far as what our rates will be for benefits, what exactly is in the level funded budget with obligations at this point, and the forward moving budget. And I won't go into that in detail, I'll let you look at that. The next section is just a calendar of our upcoming dates, our workshops, and what will be presented on those dates. And then we're moving into an account number explanation, just so when you're looking at some of the reports, you have an idea of what you're looking at. I'm hopeful that is helpful for you. The next section is an overview of the level funded with obligations budget. And this is, as you know, it's subject to change as we move along through the budget process. So there's a tab for the level funded with obligations budget, and the next tab is the forward budget. And just stop me if you have any questions as we move through. The 3 tabs following that, 8, 9, and 10, are consolidated based on the location, the function, and the object code of each of our account numbers. There is a copy of the enrollment for December in there for you, the next tab.
The next tab are those positions in which we brought forward last year in the budget proposal, and then we indicated which ones were funded, which ones were not funded, but also gave you the targets that were established for those positions last year and then what the results were to be for the upcoming, for this year as we get down to the end of it. The next one, it was the long-range staffing plan that we presented last year. We've made some revisions in it to have it align with the decisions that were made last year, and then also for positions potentially could be recommended for upcoming years on that. The next one is the new positions that we're at this point in time bringing forward. This was vetted by the full leadership team and looking at what everybody's needs were, sorting out priorities, and this is what came out of that identification. As we get further down and we get to further discussions, of course, there could potentially be further tweaks in this or further recommendations as we consider to think through what we have to address here in the future in the district. So these are the ones that are presented in the forward budget.
So the next section, section 14, is professional learning and instructional materials. Last year we showed you professional development as far as what the level funded budget was, and then we had a level with priorities, I believe is what we called that last year. I went a little further and I included also supplies, books, and software in addition to professional development. The cover sheet on that is the net difference between the level funded budget and the forward budget. Because I just wanted you to see what actually was requested by either the different departments in the schools. And in the back of that is by color each of those categories. And then you can see the notes that staff put in, staff and administrators. Section 15 is an overview of the budget and includes the level funded with obligations, the percent increase, the dollar increase, as well as the forward budget with a percent increase and a dollar increase. The next section, and it is the last section, is the CIP projects that you approved over the summer. And it just has a detail of the actual pages from the book that goes to the City Council that is going to be going to approval soon.
To council? February? Okay.
So everyone's committed that to memory now. You know, over your December holidays, you can enjoy light reading and bring back questions.
So that was going to be my question is, what is the expectation for board members at this point?
To read this. Yes. We've got to read it and be prepared on January 7th. You can see what's going to be, what's scheduled to be on that January 7th meeting. So questions specific to those individuals and those departments or areas would be the most appropriate. And being prepared each time. Questions, as always, should be emailed to Dr. Harbron, Ms. Simmons, or Ms. LaFleur by Wednesday if you want an answer by Friday. Yes? Still going to maintain that schedule? So that you have time to process before the Monday evening meeting. And those questions all become part of public record so that you know, the community knows what questions are being asked and answered via email, or what's being asked and the administration is bringing back for responses. So for that first meeting, questions related to the SAU and school staffing, teaching and learning, student services, those would be the most pertinent, because those will be the presentations that evening.
I think what worked for us well last year, I think we presented, we kept the models simple. We just said, here's what it is if we do nothing, and here's what it is if we ask for everything that we feel that we need. But I think out of those, somewhere in there lies the real budget. And I think your input last year was very valuable as we said, wait, did you think about this? Could we do it this way? Those type of conversations, I think we put in the process so those can continue for the fiscal year 20 also. So we really get down to what do we need and how can we best put it together so we can achieve that ends.
Anyone else on the FY budget for tonight?
February Friday meeting? February 15th?
No, that's when the budget's due.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
I get you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a meeting.
No, we're not. Yeah, we all get together and talk about the budget. Break our own hearts. All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll move on to condition of accounts.
As of November 30th, 2018, the unexpended fund balance is $864,248.43. And just to note on this too, on the revenue side, some of the accounts have been adjusted based on numbers that we've received from the Department of Ed. And those specifically are adequacy aid, kindergarten aid, special education aid, and CTC tuition aid. Some go up and some went down.
And the Barrington tuition number is higher. Was that because we've just had that many more students than they originally had estimated, or?
Yes. Yep. And when we make our final report to the Department of Revenue, we adjust our revenue figures based on what those current numbers are.
Excellent.
Anything else on condition of accounts? Okay, then we'll move forward to the submission and payment of bills.
I am requesting that the school board approve payment of manifest 19-F in the amount of $3,038,569.96 for fiscal year 2019 and $35,865.10 for fiscal year 2018, for a total of $3,074,435.06. The time period for these manifests is November 6th through December 7th, 2018.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Second, Dr. Meebert, thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, roll call.
Amanda Russell?
Yes.
Keith Holt?
Yes.
Kathy Morrison, yes. Zach Kaler?
Yes.
Matt Lahr?
Yes.
Carolyn Meebert? Yes. And Andrew Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you. We're at superintendent's report.
You have the monthly report before you, and unless you have any questions.
Anything for Dr. Harbron today? Okay, seeing none. Committee reports? We've received the status for both the Garrison and high school CTC projects.
Yeah, and Curriculum Council met last week and discussed two changes to high school. No, actually, one change was across the board science. So for those of you who've had children go through the schools, you know that volcanoes come up every once in a while. There will be only one volcano from now on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've only ever experienced one.
Well, they cycle through at different points in the academic career of students. And so these topics are going to be covered only one time. What's that?
I only experienced the volcano once for each child, so that was, I guess I
Okay.
won.
Maybe you had forward-looking teachers or something. I don't know. But that was one of the changes that was mentioned. And then, let's see, history, civics, government. They're talking about some changes in that. I wish I had the papers in front of me, but I don't. But moving some things out of sophomore year into junior year and trying to make the sequence more, I guess, logical and beneficial to the students. And there was something else. Oh, at the high school level, there's going to be some coverage of, this is in geology, earth science, climate change, and some other things. And consideration has been given to the political implications of climate change. And I think that the team addressed that well. So it was interesting.
Any other committee reports? Matters of interest?
I have one matter of interest that is related to the school district in that SEED, our educational foundation in Dover, received a substantial $10,000. Oh, whole new word, 10 million. $10,000 anonymous donation specifically for K-3 literacy in honor of former Superintendent Jean Bruce Badgett. So teachers, if you're watching this, paying any attention to what we're doing here, think about literacy K-3, which was something that was really close to Jean's heart.
Just a quick thank you to everyone who came out tonight. I know there aren't folks still here. They're all home in bed at this point, which is where we're headed. But, oh, sorry, yes, there are a few. But I just wanted everyone to realize that I think the discussion is important. I think we all agree that the only way we're going to move forward through this is to all be able to talk openly and honestly about how we're each feeling about the situation. And thank you again to Dr. Harborn and the entire administrative group for really making the right decision and moving through the process in a thoughtful, meaningful way. So.
Anyone else? So I have two, maybe three, or 2.5. The DHS marketing class is working on Make-A-Wish for a Dover student. She attends St. Thomas, but her younger brother is a freshman here at our school. And she is still in treatment for leukemia, but is doing remarkably well. And they're an amazing family. I frequently thank Maya's mom for moving to Dover because she's such a caring and thoughtful and intelligent woman who helps me, and she's raising intelligent, thoughtful, respectful children. So if you're looking for an end-of-year donation, Make-A-Wish would be a lovely spot to put some of your donation funds, as is the Build It Brighter campaign that we're having. Oh, it's 3.5. Tomorrow evening begins the December concert schedule here. All of the performances will be happening in this auditorium, which is very exciting. And I also wanted to share my gratitude towards our administrative staff at the high school, but throughout the district. They've worked some very long hours. They have reached out to multiple individuals throughout the region to get assistance on navigating through this issue, and have done it in a thoughtful way so that they're not reacting, but they're responding. And while some in the community might want an immediate action, I think it's always safer to collect as much information as possible before making decisions, because I think we make better decisions with more information. So I thank all of our administrators. Are there any other matters of interest? I'll entertain a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? Dr. Miebert, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. We're adjourned.